The first story in the Torah is that God says to Adam, of all the trees you may eat, but the tree of knowledge in the center of the garden, do not eat from it. The day you eat from it, you will die. The Gemara says that that was the 9th hour of the day. An hour later, the 10th hour of the day, Adam ate from the tree. And God comes to him and says, you ate from the tree I told you not to eat from? Adam says, she made me do it.
She made me
Always bend the wall.
So Hashem says to Chava, what did you do? She said, the snake tricked me. We're off to a really good start. Mankind is so impressive. And then Hashem says, okay, because you did this, you will suffer and you will suffer, and that's it. That's the story. They were thrown out of the Garden of Eden and they became mortal. Have you ever heard a worse story than that? I mean, it's a seriously depressing story. Look at the puzzles, the mysteries here. If God spoke to you and said, don't eat from that tree, could you eat from it an hour later? Could you? Yes, it was the most beautiful fig you could. And this is irresistible. God says the day you'll eat from it, you'll die, and you can't wait an hour. No, the question is not about Adam. The question is about God. God speaks to somebody up close and personal and makes no impression. Nah. No, this doesn't. It can't be. It can't be. Wouldn't it be funny if God says to Adam, don't eat from that tree, and Adam says, you talking to me? Yeah, you're the only guy around. Who else? There's nobody else. Of course I'm talking to you. So he couldn't even say, oh, you meant me? How is it possible? Second question is, what is it with Adam? He was the most intelligent, the most brilliant human being ever. He knew everything about creation. He had no Yetzer Hara. What? Explain this. He is a perfectly saintly, godly, unblemished soul without a Yetzer Hara, no bad friends. No internet to corrupt him. And an hour later he eats from the tree. This needs commentary. It's completely unbelievable that there were giants who the flood waters reached their ankle is more believable. Big is big, some guy is big. But this, no, it can't be. Then Hashem says, did you eat from the tree I told you not to eat from? He blames his wife. It just cannot be. It is not at all acceptable. He doesn't have the decency to take responsibility. And then Chava must have had a very low self-image. She's not ashamed to say the snake tricked me. How embarrassing. Other questions. God says the day you eat from it, you'll die. Was that a threat? He was 9 hours old. Had the survival instinct kicked in yet? Did he know what death meant? Nothing ever died. He was immortal. Imagine telling someone who's immortal, if you eat from that tree, you'll become mortal. So what is that? And then the big puzzle is, what does this mean? Don't eat from the tree, for the day you eat from it, you'll die. Does that sound confusing? The day you eat from it? Oh, so someday I will eat from it? It's very confusing. It sounds like a mixed message. Then, after they eat, Hashem says, because you did this, you're going to suffer by the sweat of your brow, and you're going to have children in pain. Now, that is completely unacceptable, because they weren't warned. You can't add more punishment after the fact. The deal was, if you eat from it, you'll die. Now God says, oh, no. Until you die, you'll suffer, and then you'll die. It's like that bumper sticker, life stinks, and then you die. So,
Notorious B.I.G., right?
Thank you.
So this whole story makes absolutely no sense. The biggest question of all is, why are you starting the Torah with such a horrible story? What are you trying to do? Discourage everyone from even trying? If Adam and Chava, who were the purest, they didn't even have childbirth trauma.
Coming from a rib does sound kind of traumatic.
If they couldn't last an hour with one single commandment, what chance do we have? First of all, we have a Yetzer Hara. And we do have childhood traumas, birth traumas. And we do have bad neighborhoods. And we have 613 ways to blow it. Good luck. Just try not to blame your wife. Be better than Adam. See, this thing is really... What is the point of this story? Really, what is the point? So many of the commentaries say, it's telling you how the Yetzer Hara works. They had all the trees of the garden to eat from, and they didn't feel any attraction, but the one tree they were not supposed to eat from, it was irresistible. That's how the Yetzer Hara works.
So do they have a Yetzer Hara?
Thank you. Right. Thank you for that lesson, but they didn't have a Yetzer Hara. So we can learn from that story, we who have a Yetzer Hara, but it doesn't explain why they ate from the tree when they didn't have a Yetzer Hara. Titus says that the snake was very shrewd. Not smarter than a human being, like artificial intelligence. It gets smarter than the original creators. The snake was not smarter than Chava. So how would the snake tricked me? Come on. So let's add a little Hasidus to the story and see what happens. Adam and Chava are two souls in heaven. Hashem comes to them and says, I need you to go down to the lowest world and fix it. They were not thrilled, but souls are humble, so they accepted the mission. They opened their eyes, they're in Gan Eden, and Hashem says to them, of all the trees you may eat, but the tree of knowledge, good and evil, do not eat from it. So Adam was puzzled. We came here to fix the world. Yeah, put up, Jim. Space here. Adam said, I don't understand what's going on. We came here to fix the world. Well, all the trees are kosher. They don't need to be fixed. There's one tree that is not kosher, and we're not supposed to eat from it. So what's our job? He thought maybe the job is to resist temptation and not eat from the tree, and for that we will be rewarded. Chava said, we're not here to be rewarded, we're here to fix something. So he said, well, what are we fixing? And he was also puzzled by the seeming contradiction. Don't eat from the tree. The day you eat from it, you'll die. So Chava said, it's not a contradiction. God is giving us a choice. Don't eat from the tree and live, or eat from the tree and die. They were not afraid of death. Death was another possibility. So God is giving us a choice. Don't eat from the tree and live, eat from the tree and die. We have to choose. So Adam said, all this is recorded, by the way. Adam said, well, that's an easy choice. Let's not eat. Chava said, Hashem wants us to eat from it.
She fixed him dinner.
Otherwise, she's out of a job. He said, how do you know that? How could you possibly know that? She said, we were told that we should go down to the lowest world and fix it. Does this look like the lowest world? This is Gan Eden. Everything is holy. Eat from the tree and go down to the lowest world, which is obviously the world of mortality. Adam was impressed. That made a lot of sense to him. And so they ate. Now Hashem comes to Adam and says, you ate from the tree that I told you not to eat from? And for some strange reason, we immediately assume that God is angry. Because he's always angry. Right? If God talks to you, you must be in trouble. But it's not true. God said to Adam, you ate from the tree I told you not to eat from. How did you know? Now we know that when God said, let us make man, he was talking to the angels. The angels' response was, why? You have us. We're good. What do you create man for? So God said, never mind. And he created it, man himself. Right? That's what it says. God said, let us make man, and then God made man. What happened to the angels? They wanted no part of it. So God said to them, their wisdom is going to be greater than yours. If God had said to the angels, don't eat from that tree, the day you eat from it you'll die, they would not eat from that tree. Because they wouldn't get it. Chava got it. Yes, God said don't, but he wants us to. And God was impressed. So God comes to Adam and says, how did you know? I'm really impressed. What did Adam say?
Wife made me do it.
Giving the merits.
I didn't know.
My wife.
She knew. That's a mensch. Doesn't Adam mean a mensch? So then Hashem says to Chava, how did you know? She said, I heard what the snake said and sounded right. What did the snake say? You're not just going to die. You're going to become like God and you will know good and evil. She said, good and evil. That sounds like a mess that needs to be cleaned up. There's our job. So now Hashem says, let me tell you a little more about that world that you just volunteered for. There's pain in childbirth. There's the sweat of your brow to make bread. It's a job. But don't be intimidated. Do it step by step, and you will succeed. Did they know that it would take 5,784? They were so smart, they probably knew that too. But what's 5,000 years to someone who was going to live forever? So they weren't intimidated. 5,000, 6,000, whatever. Now, is this the right story to start the Torah with? It's the perfect story. It sets the stage for the rest of the Torah. The rest of the Torah is, how do you make this world godly? How did we end up in a low world? I just told you. Chava volunteered. Grandma, she knew everything. Now, the proof to this whole thing, or at least some evidence, immediately after the description of that event, Adam and Chava are banished from the Garden of Eden. What's the next pasuk? What happens next? The flood? No, that was 1,000 years later.
The angels?
The very next pasuk,
The angels guard the...
Adam named his wife Chava because she is the mother of all life. What? According to the story as it is conventionally understood, she is the mother of all death. She let the snake trick her, and then she pestered Adam until he couldn't say no anymore, and brought death into the world. And Adam turns around and names her Chava, mother of all life. Doesn't this tell us that we're missing something in the story? Or Adam is missing something, I don't know. You would expect him to divorce her immediately. There's another indication. In the original summary of creation, after each day, Hashem said, "It is good." On Friday, by the end of Friday, God looked at all that he had made, and it was very good. Friday was very good. It was the worst day in history. They ate from the tree of knowledge. And that was a great day. Again, we're not understanding the story. But now, you add a little bit of Hasidus, it's exactly the story to start the Torah with. But let's go a little deeper. Let's go a little deeper. When Hashem said, "Don't eat from the tree, the day you eat from it you'll die," he was setting up a choice. Option. Option number one, option number two. And he wanted Adam to make the choice. Why? It's always like that. Hashem puts us on the threshold of a decision, but then wants us to choose and make the next step voluntarily. Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, took us across the sea, brought us to the border of Israel, and then said, "Your move. You want to send spies? Send spies. You don't. It's up to you." All of a sudden, it's like, no, you choose. Problem is, I understand that he wanted to give Adam options and a choice. But when he said, "Don't eat from the tree," that was a lie. He didn't mean it. How could Hashem say something that he doesn't mean? Don't eat from the tree means I don't want you to eat from the tree. But he did want them to eat from the tree. So now we know something about Hashem. Something really significant. He really didn't want them to eat from the tree. Why would he want them to die?
So he wanted the lower world, and that was the portal to the lower world.
Right. He wanted them to be mortal and part of the lower world. So it was okay with him that they die? Chas v'sholem to say that. Once you learn a little more Hasidus, you realize almost everything Hashem did was against his will. Like, for example, in order to create the world, he had to restrict his own expression, his own light. He had to make a tzimtzum. He wants to restrict himself? In order for the world to be what it is, he has to be wearing a mask. Hester Punim. He wants to wear a mask. We couldn't tolerate it for a year. He's been wearing a mask for 5,784 years. He wants to send the soul from heaven to earth? No. He hates it. He wants to create a Yetzer Hara? Good and evil? No, he hates it. He wants to create Golus? He wants to create sin? None of it. It all goes against the grain. And yet, there is a purpose, a kavanah, that is so necessary, so essential, that he puts up with all this. He sacrifices. So here's how it's described. The creation of the world is because of a kavanah, but his rotzen is negated by the whole creation. So we usually, we're not so careful with our language. Say, God created the world because he wanted to. God created the world for a purpose, but it goes against his will. That's why he says in Tanya that Hashem sacrifices so much in order to have the Dira B'Tachtonim. Can't you sacrifice a little of your indulgences? In other words, he's not asking of you anything he doesn't do himself. So I was speaking to these kids. I said, does God have an arm? They said no. I said, wait a minute. If you have an arm, how could he not have an arm? You have something he doesn't have? That can't be. Because he has everything we have. He can do anything we do. So if we can speak, then he certainly can speak. And this kid, maybe 11 years old, says, oh yeah? Can God sin?
Wow. Got him.
Huh?
Wow. Sharp.
Sharp kid.
Smart.
Kids are very smart these days. What is the answer?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, he sinned before Adam. What is a sin? Doing something that goes against God's will. Does he do things against his will? All the time. The Gemara says there are 3 things God regrets creating every day. He regrets it every day. And one of them is the Yetzer Hara. So then the obvious question is, if you're so against it and you regret it, so stop it. So stop it. Who's forcing you? The answer is, without the Yetzer Hara, the kavanah, the purpose, the plan won't work.
So you're saying that the regret is an exterior regret. It's not like because his real ratzon is that the man will and that the person will have a dir b'tachtonim.
You could say it that way, and in some places it does say that there is a ratzon pnimi and a ratzon chitzoni. But that could be confusing. He wants. He sounds a little. I want to, but I don't want to. But so to make it clearer, he doesn't want it, but his kavanah demands it. So purpose, interesting thing, purpose is more powerful than will.
Wow. And what?
Than will.
And what?
Kavanah is more powerful than rotzen. And that's why Hashem says, you don't want to? So what? There's a purpose. I don't want to either. But there's a purpose. Okay, that is just fleshing out the idea that Torah is just full of paradoxes. Hashem is unknowable, but let's get to know him. Hashem should not create a world, he should be perfectly content, but he's not. Hashem should not be involved in the affairs of everyday, details of a leaf being blown across the street. He shouldn't be involved in these things, but he is. Before the world was created, there was just him. He was Yochid u'miyuchad, there was nothing else. Yeah? And he hated it.